Welcome to Ted Investigates. Sorry, I was running a little bit late this morning. Apologize for that. We are on day 46 of Nancy Guthrie trying to figure out where she is, how we're going to find her. So we're going to look her up. We're going to do a couple searches, interactive maps, kind of go where we're at on day 46. So if you just bear with me, thanks for tuning in. Let's give it a few seconds for someone to be on. We are going to hear from Brian Enton. We're going to go over Brian Enton's perspective for a second, see what he has to say really quick on this day 46. Hope everyone's having a lovely morning. Thanks for being up with us.
Click to subscribe. I really appreciate all of the support. Today is day 46 in the search for Nancy Guthrie. A couple of interesting updates today I'm going to get to in this episode. First of all, I got some new information. There was all sorts of questions about Annie Guthrie's car, why it wasn't returned, what was taking so long. I got some specific information about what was happening behind the scenes there that I'm going to get into in this episode. That makes sense. And I go through it all with retired FBI agent Maureen O'Connell, my friend, who's also been looking into the case. So you're going to hear from her. I'm going to get into that. Really the big news of the day is this effort to recall Pima County Sheriff Nanos. Obviously, there's been a lot of criticism of the sheriff ever since the Nancy Guthrie case came about. And it's interesting, right when I got to Tucson, I realized pretty quickly that there was drama with the sheriff. I mean, there were a lot of people.
So right now there is a lot of calls for the sheriff to kind of unwind and take a step back, and it's kind of shocking. So we're going over this really quick.
Immediately who started contacting me, talking about the sheriff, who didn't like the sheriff, which, sometimes I take with a grain of salt just because there's always politics involved. And, I was sort of just focused on the situation with Nancy, but I started to realize and peel back the layers that, there's been this ongoing issue with the sheriff and people who are not pleased with him. And now there is this recall effort, which is pretty serious. There's this Arizona Republican congressional candidate who's initiated the process of recalling Sheriff Nanos. His name is Daniel Gutierrez. And basically, they have to get signatures. They have 120 days to gather 120,000 signatures, which is about 25% of the total votes that were cast for the sheriff in the 2024 election. And they say they're going to try to get that number, so 120,000 signatures in 60 days. And then if the recall is successful, Nanos will then have the option to either resign or call for a special election. I've also heard that there's talk with some of the county supervisors that they're going to talk to the sheriff. And, there kind of seems to be a push among some people that they want the sheriff to just sort of retire on his own. The sense that I get just from my interactions with the sheriff is that he probably would not be willing to do that. And whether he even should, I don't know. I mean, he's an elected sheriff. But there are obviously a growing number of people, it seems, in Tucson who are not happy with Sheriff Nanos. There's people who didn't like him before. I mean, he won by pretty tight margin. But it seems like there's a lot of people who are not happy with his handling specifically of the Nancy Guthrie investigation. And again, I'm going to get into that in this episode more, especially with Maureen. Is that fair? Is it fair to hold him responsible for the way the investigation has gone so far? We'll talk about that more in a couple of minutes. Sheriff Nanos did respond to this recall attempt, saying, "We are aware of the recall and it is the right of the people. We'll always honor the will of the people, and that's what makes democracy." Which kind of reminded me of something when I interviewed him. He brought that up to me too. And you guys remember, I kind of had an awkward exchange with him because right when I went into his office to interview him, he pulled out his phone and, wasn't happy with some of my reporting and some of the reporting on News Nation about him. But he said to me, he's like, "Look, I'm elected. I won fair and square. So people cannot like me, but, enough people liked me to elect me. So here I am." So it'll be.
Can you imagine that somebody, for a second, this is actually happening? He's doing that bad. This reminds me of just like the Gilgo 4. This is actually going to play out where they're going to pull the sheriff. Like, this is how much they dropped the ball This is how much lack of information. To me, this seems how much they ruined the crime scene. This is just absolutely ridiculous that something like this is happening um, on a missing persons case that's abductive, and it's Nancy Guthrie. This is just terrible.
Interesting to see the way this whole recall effort unfolds. Again, I'm going to talk to retired FBI agent Maureen O'Connell about that now, and also just about some of the other developments in the case over the last couple of days. What I learned about Andy Guthrie's car, what I've learned that FBI agents are asking neighbors, and I haven't talked to Maureen in probably about a week, so I wanted to get her take on some of the latest developments.
Hey, Maureen, thank you for.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Basically, they said all they need is 60 votes, and then it goes into like a recall where more people vote, and the sheriff is actually going to be removed, which I think is just this is one of the craziest cases, kind of how it's unwinding right now. Hey, what's up? Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. So we're going to go around here. We're going to research a lot of stuff this morning. Sorry for a little bit of a late start. I can't believe my alarm was going off at like 3:30 in the morning, and I just completely slept past it. So I feel like weak sauce right now. Sorry.
For joining me. I feel like I haven't seen you in, I guess it's been maybe a week or so. How are you?
I know, it feels strange. I missed you.
Are you having a good day?
Yeah, it's been about a week. Yeah, everything's good. Working hard, got a lot of stuff going on.
You're always busy.
I know.
You don't sit still.
Nope.
I want to start off asking you, because this is sort of developing right now and doesn't really come as a surprise, but Sheriff Nanos, the Pima County Sheriff, there's now officially like an effort for a recall, which is, a whole legal process where you get a certain amount of signatures and you can try to basically push him out of office. And, when I was in Tucson, there's a lot of people who are very frustrated with him, as you can imagine. Some people didn't like him before. Some people now are just upset with the way that the case has been handled. What do you think? I mean, do you think now that we're almost 2 months out, it's a fair time to start to be critical in that way?
I really hate being critical of my fellow law enforcement officers, but I just think, I just don't know what to think about this guy. And my understanding from reporting that Megyn Kelly did the other day, that he had something like a 95% disapproval rate before this case, which is pretty shocking.
95% disapproval rate. This is, like I've been saying, and again, I don't like to toot my own horn, but which I'm probably stating the obvious here, this is the Google Beach 4. This is exactly what happened in Google Beach 4 when you had the 4 girls missing and other bodies on Long Island, and they made a change of administration, a change of the sergeant. The chief of police stepped down. They brought in a new prosecuting attorney. They brought in a new chief of police, and Rex Uerman was literally, they had one file. They pulled the Chevy Avalanche trucks that were silver, and they were from the time frame of 2008 to 2009. Literally, like there was like only 100 left. And, this is going to be more, complex. But boom, they got Rex Uerman instantly. They got that dirtball off the streets, terrorizing innocent girls. And it's just terrible because, sometimes when it is a night worker that they call them, there's still souls. There's still people on earth. There's still people that get bloodily murdered. This reminds me identical to this. Like, removing this person might solve the case. I'm hoping it gets solved faster. And I'm thinking maybe this is like a political thing where it goes back and forth and maybe it might not be removed. But this is just like Gilgo Beach 4. And Gilgo Beach 4 went on for 10 years. It went 10 years. And then they switched chiefs of police. And within like 2 weeks, they got to him.
So, if those people feel it's time for him to go, it might just be time for him to go. It's unfortunate, but I don't know. Have you heard anything good about him?
Well, and what you brought up is true. I forget what they call it. It's like the union does this survey, and I interviewed the union president, and basically they survey all the deputies. A confidence vote of no confidence.
Vote of no confidence for sure.
That's right. And it was like, I forget what the percentage was, but it was vast majority of the deputies voted that they don't have confidence in the sheriff.
Oh yeah, serial killer.
And even when he was
Serial
up for
killers, for
re-election, which I've never heard of this before, the deputies wore masks in the uniform and had like signs for the other candidate outside the sheriff's office, which is really a strange. I mean, you don't really see that happening normally.
No,
I mean,
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, the rank and file, from what
I've never heard signs outside of sheriff's office. I've seen signs outside of like other businesses I've owned, from like landlords not paying union electricians, like carpenters and stuff like that. When I had a business in like this little like skyscraper place, we had like a big picket with a big fat blow up rat, but never outside of a sheriff's office. This is going to be nuts. I wonder if Amagansett Press, big shout out to them if you don't watch their channel, Amagansett Press, I wonder if they'll show up there and sit on the sidewalk and videotape. And his son is watching The Watchmen. It's awesome. It's all about First Amendment rights. Big shout out to them.
could tell really does not seem to like Nanos. And I've tried to kind of like take the politics out of it, because he is a Democrat, and you know, a lot of the sheriffs in Arizona are Republicans, and I don't know if politics comes into play here, but it doesn't seem like they. I mean, the vote of no confidence just is what it is. Yeah, so they're not confident in him.
No, and I read part of his discipline file, which was pretty shocking to me. I mean, I don't know that I've ever seen anything like that before either. So that was weird. I mean, granted, it was a long, long time ago, but still, that's a lot of those things that he has in his jacket would not be survivable at all in today's law enforcement environment, especially in California, Arizona, Nevada. Wouldn't happen. So maybe it's just time for him to rock and roll and forget about it, you know?
Forget about it.
He worked for, this was years ago, what you're talking about. He worked for El Paso police. And I want to say this was like 30 years ago, but you're right. I mean, a local reporter went back and I had to like dig through paperwork and find his old file, which was still there in El Paso. And he had some serious, infractions. And it sounds like kind of a forced, not retirement, but, you know, he left the job. I think
pending, it said something like pending firing.
Yeah, like almost so he wouldn't get fired, you know?
Yeah.
And then there were these questions about his resume because the years were off from when he left. But I mean, the bottom, you know, when you're a sheriff, I mean, you know how it is. It's like he's elected by the people now. So
they elected him, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like a police chief where, you know, they can just get fired. I mean, it's, you know, he's an elected official.
Right. And they elected him. So the sheriff, whenever you're dealing with a sheriff versus a police department, there's just naturally going to be more politics involved, but not so much amongst the rank and file, because honestly, I worked with people for 15, 20 years. I didn't know what their politics were, and I didn't care. As long as we're all mission focused, getting the job done, then that's all, you know, that's all you need.
Yeah. I also wonder now that they have this task force, which when I left seemed to be more of a well-oiled machine than in the beginning.
Oh, God, I didn't know my whole face.
Where, you know, it's the FBI, it's in the FBI building, and then they also have the Pima County detectives as part of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, even if they ousted the sheriff now, would that really have an impact on the investigation, do you think, at this point?
No. The continuity, no, it would not.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But, you know,
because it's not like he's holding the whole thing together.
Yeah. When I got there, though, in the beginning, it was like, wow, this is like I don't want to say SHIT storm. Like, it was already drama with the sheriff. You could tell. Like, they had already had the vote of no confidence. And people were coming out of the woodwork immediately. Like, you got to look into the sheriff. So I think this has been, before Nancy Guthrie, this was like a very volatile situation with the sheriff, I could tell.
And whenever you have the union reps involved, though, what I've seen historically is, you know, sometimes the union really wants something, and the police chief or the sheriff isn't willing to go to bat for that, or that's not the hill they're going to die on,
Yeah.
then they can drum everyone up to file a vote of no confidence on them. But because I've seen that happen a couple of times, but this seems to precede that, and this seems to supersede that also, and it seems to go along with what we have witnessed ourselves.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree with you. Yeah, because when I've covered unions, the unions a lot of times never like the boss,
Right.
They never get the money they deserve. But this does seem different. I mean, they really don't like this man. You can tell. So I guess we'll see what happens with them getting the signature.
Quick update. I just read something from a source that's boots on the ground, says experts, FBI expert, a close source, a boots on the ground source that's actually friends with an FBI person on the case, that says it was a ransom. It was revenge rather than ransom. That's interesting. And we were talking about the revenge. Anybody have revenge against Savannah Guthrie?
What do you think? So I was able to confirm, we knew the January 11th date was significant because they were asking neighbors for video from January 11th. Now I'm hearing from neighbors that they're also asking about the 24th, specifically for video, which would have been the Saturday before Nancy went missing. And both of those days, January 11th and the 24th, are both on weekends.
Right.
What stands out to you there?
Well, if I'm doing an op and I'm going to do it on a Saturday night, then I'm going to do dry runs on Saturday nights. I want to know what it's like. What lights are on? Is she generally home? Does she stay up late? Is she watching TV? And the more you think about this, about someone having to case this house, the less likely it seems that it would be a family member, because they would probably already know all this information, right? I mean, I don't know. So I would say they were casing the place.
Thank you. I definitely did sleep. I definitely did sleep this time. I started the show late, and I'm very sorry. This is very interesting. So an expert said it was FBI, from an FBI source, FBI, it was revenge, not a ransom, was the motive. That's breaking right now. Okay, so I know a lot of people ask, what's with the breaking news thumbnails? Well, news is always breaking news. It's kind of what a lot of headlines are. The breaking news, like every day, there's little breadcrumbs of new stuff. And right now, it's the two dates, January 11th, January 24th, but I would say that was from a couple days ago. It's the construction workers on the site, but now there's a source saying it's revenge and not ransom. I think that is just so compelling.
And doing a dry run for a Saturday evening hit. Yeah. I mean, by hit, I mean you're hitting the house, you're going there, you're doing this.
And I wonder if the person has a job during the week. Is that why they're doing this on the weekend?
They may not, but they may not have a job at all. Their job right now is to abduct her, or whatever they're planning on, whatever the plan was. And so if your plan is to abduct her at 1:00 in the morning on a Saturday, when you go there, it's going to be on Saturdays. Because for all they knew, if they're not a family member, then they're not going to know. She may have someone stay there with her Friday through Sundays. I know an old person that has someone come and stay every Friday through Monday morning. So those are the things you want to know. Is there a car in the driveway? Is there another car in the garage? Is someone else in the house? Are you going to have to fight two people instead of one? Or just have complete compliance? Or is there someone else there you need to worry about?
All right, guys, I want to introduce
maybe
you to the
it's
sponsor
Savannah
of today's
Guthrie revenge.
episode, Surfshark. Have you ever tried to watch a video, but it says that you can't watch it because of the country that you are in? Well, Surfshark will definitely solve that problem, and it does so for extra months of Surfshark VPN.
Oh man, we're talking about VPNs on here. That's not good. Let's not talk about switching, bouncing VPNs.
Where are your thoughts on that right now? I mean, I guess it would make sense why she would be upset.
Of course she's upset. I mean, because Annie and Tommaso have a child that's young. This whole thing has to be unbelievably traumatic. And everyone was blaming Tommaso and Annie to a certain extent. And you think the kids at school aren't hitting them with that every day? So that kid is suffering even more than he normally would, with his grandmother being abducted and Lord knows what else. So I can understand that, but I can also understand why people are asking all these questions. Because
Right.
when it was like, it seemed like every other day for the first week, the police or FBI are over at their house or in their backyard, or they seize the car and the car's there for 40 days. I mean, those are all solid indicators of someone being involved in some way, shape, or form. So it's normal to ask those questions.
Very great
But
point.
when the sheriff says that they're not suspects anymore, then, we've got
Ken, that was a very, very great point. I wonder if they were watching when Nancy was brought back home last night. That's an excellent point. Excellent, excellent point.
to pump the brakes and be patient. And it's not easy to be patient in a situation like this. Your mind just races. I mean, have you ever woken up in the middle of the night and thought, my God, where is poor Nancy? I know I have. A lot of us have.
Yeah. It's funny when I got home, not funny, but it's something about me getting back home. Like, you're so in the zone when I was there in Tucson for like 42 days. Like a lot of those questions that like didn't really hit me until I got home, like just kind of laying in bed here back at home. Like, gosh,
Feeling
we really
safe.
we don't really know where Nancy, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I think I was just so go there. Like kind of those bigger questions didn't really set in.
Oh,
for me
great.
until
Thank
I
you,
got
Gen
home,
X.
and
I'll
I'm like,
definitely check it out.
gosh, this really is crazy.
Definitely check it out.
Yeah, well, distance does that. That's why, when they say it's good to get away, sometimes it is. And you really immersed yourself in there. You really immersed yourself there completely and did such a great job. And so many people appreciate that. But then you get home and you can have, breathe a little bit, and you're thinking, wow, where is Nancy? I mean, it is shocking to me that we don't have more information right now.
Yeah.
It is shocking.
With her car, with Annie
Thanks.
and Tommaso's car, I did learn something new.
Wait, we'll get to that in a second. Thanks, Gen X. I'm going to check that just shortly. I really, really appreciate your help and a lot of the stuff that you're sending. Yes, I'm on X. Please follow me on X if you'd like. Yep. I don't know how to get you my X link, but it's Ted Investigates, I think, on X, or at Ted Investigates or something. Hi, y'all. Oh, hey, what's up, Holly?
I don't know if I haven't seen anyone else report this. I don't know if you knew this. So what I was told is one of the reasons that it was so delayed in returning it
Oh, no, you're good.
is because it wasn't like they ripped the car apart like with Ryan Koberger's car, like where they took the seats out and everything, but it was something with the electronics that they did, like some kind of download of the electronics that somehow messed things up. And the sheriff's office took the car to the dealership to get it all fixed, which apparently like was taking a lot of time.
That's interesting because my sister had all the electronics and everything are in that radio system in the front. She ordered a brand new vehicle, and she gets it home. The whole thing stops working. So they had to take that whole system out of the dashboard. When they did that, it was like this whole mesh network back there. They had to tear. I mean, it was
Gen X, this is the same exact. I thought the same exact thing with the headlight of a BMW. That's so interesting because that one photo of the light where they zoom in. So when the suspect's walking up, someone sent me a video, or not a video, like a still frame, and like lightened up the contrast and zoomed in, and it looked like a BMW headlight. Awesome take on that. I couldn't connect the dots to what type of car, but now that you're showing me that is exactly what I feel like I'm looking at. Thanks so much. That's awesome.
irreparable. So they had to order a whole new thing, wait for it to get there, test it. They had issues again. This is my sister's car, not Annie's car. They had issues again and had to order some other parts before they were able to make it whole, and knock on wood, But that actually is the first thing that makes sense about what's taken them so long. But they could have just said that.
I know, because I asked my source, so was it like Koberger's car? Because I actually got pictures of Koberger's car where it's like the cushions were off and the gear shifter was off. They took the steering wheel off. And he's like, no, they didn't do anything like that. They didn't want to damage the car, but they messed up the electronics when they did.
In order to get it out, you have to, yeah. In some cars, not all cars. A well-designed car, it shouldn't be that way. It's kind of like a car where in order to do anything with the transmission, you have to take the whole transmission out. So it's going to cost you an extra $1,800. That kind
Oh,
of,
yes, I did see this.
that's not a well-designed car in my opinion, but what do I know?
Yeah. And just one last thing on Savannah that I've thought about is, you know, again, I didn't know her, but I've seen her before at big stories. Like, you know, when the Today Show will send out the anchor to be live on the scene, big crimes. I don't know if she was at Coburger, but, so, you know, she's been that, like, you know, I was standing outside the house, like she's been that person before, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I feel terrible for her now on the other side of this. I mean, I can't even imagine. I feel so bad for her, but at the same time, it's like she's also been the one asking these hard questions before when
Yes.
she's covered these stories, and she's also been the one standing outside the house. So even though I feel terrible for her, it is kind
I've
of
seen
like
her be pretty tough on people
Yeah.
that I felt were victims of things in the past. I'm not going to hold that against her. Obviously, this is a terrible thing, but she, yeah, it's to the point where she should almost, to a certain extent, understand.
Right.
The person I think about all the time for some reason is her brother, the fighter pilot, because he's like a stoic, just the way that he's handled this whole thing. Just like the quiet warrior. And from the photos, he looks just like his dad, doesn't he?
Mm.
And for him to go into battle, to fight for innocent people, to be safe and all that kind of stuff, to have this happen, you know, his mom makes it to 84 and now this is just indescribable.
Yeah. And you could tell when he made that one video, I mean, he's clearly not someone, I don't think he's comfortable in the public eye. He's like, seems like he has a military personality.
Yes.
And
Hey guys, I want to show you something real quick. One second. This was just posted. I have to share this. This is so ridiculous. This was just posted. 1 second. Look at this. This is craziness. Ugh, why is this thing so far down? This is Sheriff Nanos, okay? This was just posted by Jennifer Kopfendorfer. Oops. This is Sheriff Nanos in his car, and he's going to the gym. I mean, this guy is living large, man. This guy is living large. This was just posted by Jennifer Kopfendorfer. This is not real. Yep, very true on that. It's crazy that this is Jennifer Kopfendorfer. She posted the Sheriff's Nanos. What is that, a McLaren? I mean, holy cow. Again, you know, I don't want to knock someone for having a car, but just saying, thought that was interesting. Okay, back onto the show. Yes, that is real. I can't spell her name. Kopfendorfer. Forgive. Yeah. 1 second. I'll find her. I'll give her a shout out. Let me make sure we get the right. Let's see if I can copy this. It's just at Kopfendorfer. That's where I was posted at. I was just watching Brian to date. This Facebook guy I always see that's love with him. Isn't making fun of him. Yeah, she's not making fun of him. I know Deanna personally. Brian's a phenomenal reporter. We all know that.
he came out the front door, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was like you kind of saw a different side of him.
Anything for his mom, and that's why he did it. He didn't want, I mean, like you said, he was not comfortable doing that. But I just, you know, I mean, so many of us just wish there was something we could do to comfort any of them.
Yeah,
Good
I
point.
know.
But all we can do is keep the story alive, I guess.
I hope that I don't know. I wonder what it feels like for them now. Like for Annie, you know, it's like, do you want things to kind of quiet down?
Well, Annie and Tommaso probably do, just for their
Yeah.
son, for their own sanity. Everyone knows where they live. Everyone can get pretty close to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, they would want it to slow down, but they still want everyone to look for their mom.
Did you see that one video? There was one of the streamers, which is like the people, you know, who are out there with streaming with their phone, was outside their house. This was a couple days ago, and Tommaso came out. Did you see that on like Twitter or anything?
No.
And he came out and was clearly, I forget what he said, but it was like he was agitated that they were outside the house again, his house, which I can understand. I mean, I never went back to there. Once they were cleared and it was like, you know, it was, of course I went there when,
Yeah,
remember
Brian,
when the police were inside and you could see the camera flash? I mean, you had,
Brian, excuse my language, but Brian's all over cases like flies on shit.
I'm a reporter. I had to be there and I kept going back every
Absolutely.
day. But once they were cleared, it was kind of like, what's the point of hanging out outside their house, you know?
Yeah. So what did he do?
So he was agitated. I mean, he was in the video, he came out the front door and I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was like you kind of saw a different side of him, like he had had enough. You know what I mean?
Whatever.
Yeah, which I could kind of sympathize with. Something else I wanted to ask you about Maureen, and I brought this up in an episode yesterday, and a few people were like, "Oh, you weren't listening to Maureen. She said this like weeks ago on your show." Like, they were like, "You didn't hear Maureen say it before."
Yeah, you need to pay attention, Brian.
I know.
You only have 877 videos of people. You should know every word.
I always listen to you carefully.
Or a Mustang. Yeah, I didn't see that either.
But it was actually one of the neighbors that brought this up again to me, was about the security door on.
Yeah, I did tell you that.
You did.
I told you it's so hard to breach those doors. It's impossible. And the other thing I wanted to say with regard to last night, because I always watch Steve Moore, because I don't know if
Actually, that gave me a little bit of hope when I heard Brian was younger than me by about a year, maybe almost 2 years. I actually was like, wow, okay, man, that's a lot of energy, a lot of positivity, sharp guy. So I was actually, I was like, whew, I was just worried. I thought he was like in his early 30s. I was like, oh man, this guy. But he's it's very motivating when I found that out, to get my butt up.
if your listeners know, but Steve and I are very good friends, worked together for a long time, love him. But just because your friend has the key on the inside, that's not normal. The inside should be a regular lock that you should be able to lock or unlock. It's actually a fire hazard to have only the key for egress. You should be able to unlock it just with your finger and go out, either with a little deadbolt or the thing in the center. It should have both. That would be my recommendation. So from the outside, you need a key. From the inside, you should be able to lock it like you would any lock, and also a little deadbolt above that.
Yeah, well, I looked at it more closely today.
That's true too.
And it may have a regular lock on the inside, because I noticed today it's not just bars; it's like a mesh, like a metal mesh. So
yeah, it's that heavy metal mesh.
You wouldn't be able to reach around.
No,
you know what I mean.
We have those all over California. You find those in places where you need extra security, A, or B, which is what's happening in Nancy's house. If it's hot out, but you want to leave the door open all night, you know, like in California over here, people have, those doors are everywhere, even in relatively safe neighborhoods, because if you want the breeze coming through, a lot of people don't have air conditioning and don't want it. They're going to have it in Arizona, obviously, but in California. So you can leave that door wide open. And I used to have one, and I would leave that door open at night because I had two dead.
Yeah, well, he definitely has to
and
scrub it because
doorknob
people are
locked.
searching.
So I would just leave it open back then. I don't think I would now.
Well, it seems like it'd be pretty safe, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's pretty safe. And it makes a lot of noise. When you're trying to break in that thing, you're making noise. And we know that from law enforcement. So when Steve was talking about the breaching tools that we have and how you breach, sometimes we would have to hook it up to a winch on a truck and rip the door off in order to get in. And, you know, and it's extremely dangerous. It makes noise. And what does that do? that wakes up the occupants. And if they're armed and dangerous, which is one of the only reasons we're pulling a door off at 4 or 5 in the morning, now they're awake. And it's, you took a dangerous situation and made it even more dangerous. So you got to be very, very careful when you do that.
Do you think?
Yes, I am. Definitely am. If I could ever do this full time, I could, I can go to more places and do stuff. I would love that. But
that was in the house, like, the guy that was,
and then I come on at nighttime
some person
as well.
was delivering groceries, and they purposefully unlocked it on their way out. Now that would just be the turn lock in the center of a doorknob, that wouldn't stop Nancy from flipping the deadbolt, which is what most of these doors have. And the reason I say that is because I know the neighbor said that hers is another way. They may have gotten that one on sale, because that one should not be in a residence. You should never have a door. It's against the code, the fire codes and everything. You can't have a door where you shouldn't have a door where you need a key to exit the structure, just in case there's any type of emergency. But
that's a great point. My mother actually has a door where she needs a key to exit. It's silly. It's terrible. I've been trying to tell her to change it, but she's stubborn. It's crazy.
With so I've looked at and taken breaching classes and hundreds and hundreds of these doors. The ones in the interior, you can open manually with your hand without a key. So that would be my guess.
If you think it was locked, that would go back to the neighbor's theory of the person at the camera that we saw with the mask wasn't trying to get in through the front door.
No, they were probably trying to cover the camera so that people couldn't see the condition Nancy was in when they took her out. That person went in the back door or some other place that was open. A lot of people, Nancy used to have that little dog. She could have left her slider unlocked just because it was in the habit of opening that slider to let the dog out in the middle of the night or something like that. But even that, I don't know many old ladies that leave their doors unlocked, especially, because Nancy's mom lost her husband around the same time my mom, she was a single mom to those 3 kids. That's what my mom was. So that mom is more like the mom and the dad. She has to take on these additional roles. So she would want her kids to be safe and their dad wasn't there and whatever. I don't know. Maybe I just have a hard time thinking that an 84-year-old lady by herself isn't going to lock doors. I just think as we get older, I'm far more security conscious now than I was 15 years ago. And I'm not nowhere near 84 years old.
I kind of go both ways on that, because part of me is like, it's such a quiet neighborhood. The other neighbors said that people don't lock their doors. She's lived there since the 70s and may just be so comfortable there. No one's ever bothered her before. But then at the same time, the fact that she had cameras, unless the kids put them up. But if she wanted cameras, that would make me think that she was somewhat security conscious,
But I could easily see the kids put their cameras up also, because, Mom, I just want to be able to see, or if you fall in the driveway, how am I going to know, or anything like that.
Yeah. Maybe
or maybe her dog used to get loose, so they put up some cameras so I can, one of them can look on their phone instead of running over there all the time.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
I just heard, was that a bus that went by?
William.
Heard something.
Street sweepers.
Oh, the street sweepers.
But
yeah, so I don't know. I mean, because there's been some have reported that the sliding glass, I haven't been able to get this. Some have reported that the sliding glass door was left open, but we don't know.
Well, the sliding glass door is in play because if you watch that video carefully of the FBI walking the prosecutors through that crime scene, they're meticulously pointing out things that they think may have been disturbed. And that led them, those doors, I believe, led right into Nancy's bedroom. And so you saw them open the door and with glove, move the curtain over. There just were so many places to get DNA. And here's the other thing about the DNA. And
supposed to be pausing this. I somehow switched it into my other stream. We have the Gen X Heretic said this creepy perpetrator on the porch is pissing me off. What did he do, and where is he? Who's the gem guy for real? And did they get DNA from Ivan Miller, the perp in Utah, who did the old lady in? Great take. Great take.
That house. This is why I'm so shocked they don't have good DNA. Because that guy had that bite light in his mouth. All right, you can turn it on and off while closing your jaw. But once you get in the house and you turn a light on or whatever, you're not going to keep that thing in your mouth the entire time. You can't call out commands.
Right.
You can't tell her what to do. You can't do it. You take it out and you put it in your pocket or something until you need it on the way out or whatever. Like maybe give the driver a 2 flash thing. But I still think that thing in his pocket is a walkie-talkie to get the driver to come around, or whatever. I think it was a walkie-talkie. But I cannot believe that just the motion of taking that bite light, putting it in your pocket, and then touching anything isn't going to leave saliva, which is a really good source, a solid source of DNA.
Hey, Deb, how's it going?
When you have just a bodily fluid.
Do you think that there's stuff from inside the house that they've done a really good job of keeping on the DL? I mean, with all the stuff that's leaked out, I kind of think that if there was some big smoking gun in the house, we probably would have heard about it by now. But do you think there could be something that the sheriff has been very careful? Because I will say, as many little tidbits as he lets out, from the beginning, every time me or anyone else has asked him about the inside of the house, he's very quick to say, we're not going to talk about what's inside the house.
I hope so. And I just cannot believe, I just really have a hard time believing that we're not in a better place investigatively than what it seems from the outside. And I've been on the inside on a lot of these big cases, and the press rarely, if ever, gets it right. So I'm hanging my hat on that. And that's why I'm maintaining optimism, even when everyone's like, why are you being so optimistic? There's no hope, I just can't go down that road yet, because I know the heart of the law enforcement officers working this thing. I know how hard they're doing it. I know how well trained they are. And, I would think that I'd be able to get DNA.
That's so true. The gem was,
and I would certainly, be able to get it off that rug.
Is a neighbor.
You'd get something off that rug. If nothing else, you'd be getting the contents of the bottom of his boots. Those rugs are designed to pull debris off your shoes before you enter the house. And that debris could be anything from the hairs and fibers in his car, hairs, human hairs, dog hairs, whatever. There's a lot of information that you can find in shoe impressions and the debris from the bottom of a shoe or a boot. In this case, the shoes of that guy. I don't know. But with that bite light, there's no way he had that bite light in his mouth for 41 minutes.
Yeah, there's
no
way.
He could have taken it off and set it down somewhere, but he probably put it in his pocket. But once he touched it, his whole hand is covered in saliva.
Right.
You can't walk around, and I told you this before, even with a little flashlight, like this kind. Sometimes in a crime scene, when I would need both hands, I would have a little flashlight in my mouth. Nothing makes your mouth water more.
See, this isn't a bite light. This is me, and this was a miniature flashlight in my mouth. You couldn't see it, so it is a bite light. They're right.
I went back that second time. Remember, they closed everything down and their team went in to get it. Hopefully maybe that time they got more, but.
Well, I'm hoping, but we didn't see any alternate light source in there. We didn't see any blue light or black light or anything. Because I was asking.
They moved us down. Remember, they moved us way away during that. They wouldn't let us stay in front
good.
of the house anymore.
That's actually good.
Yeah.
They could have tape lifted the whole surface of that rug, but it didn't really look like it the next time someone went up there. But who knows? I hope they did. If they tape lifted that entire rug, that would have been great. And if they swabbed a good chunk of it, that too would have been great. Even if they broke it up into little like checkerboard squares and using distilled water and gauze, did it, put it in a bag, did it in that lower one, put it in a bag, and just, on their hands and knees, that's what I would have done. I would have taken the rug, no question about it.
Yeah,
But
people, a
also
lot
that
of people have
doorknob.
zeroed in and been confused why the rug is still there.
I'm very confused why the rug is still there. A lot of people say they would have.
There's a mini bite light here, everyone. There's a few variations of them.
2 or 3 other people in there if you want, if you need, and you can say, guys, this is the plan. This is what I'm looking at doing. I'm going to do this first and then that or whatever. And yeah, the other thing is, I hope they did the doorknob. I'm sure they swabbed that doorknob because, again, with that bite light
It's
in his
true.
mouth, he may not have even realized it. If you look at his at the balaclava that he had on, in that one image where he's looking up at the light and you can see his eyes so well, the face mask is a little bit askew, and I think that's from him. You know, like if your nose itches under, like when you go skiing and you have that thing on your face, it's just natural to just do something like this. So if they did that and then touch the doorknob, which it looked like they touched the doorknob at one point, and or they touched the mount
Janet, great
for
point.
the
Or, I'm
camera,
sorry,
the Nest camera,
Push
there should be DNA on
Scorpio.
that too.
Great point.
So perhaps they swabbed that entire thing. Okay, good. Then why aren't, we should be further along then. But, if they are doing, I keep looking at the Corey Richins case and I'm like, it took them a year to arrest her.
Yeah.
So if they're doing forensic genetic genealogy, it's going to take a while.
You were into the Corey Richins case, by the way.
That case was bananas, dude.
Yeah. I was totally I was so zeroed in on Nancy Guthrie.
Oh, you couldn't carve out any time for Corey Richins? Just kidding.
No, I was just, but you kept telling me oh, Corey Richins. Is there anything else, Maureen, that you think is important right now that's on your mind?
No, I just don't want this case to be about Sheriff Nanos. I want the case to be about Nancy Guthrie.
Yeah.
And so I don't really like the distraction. I just wish he would have gone through a PIO the whole time and just, kept his pie hole shut and just became, was like an administrator.
Yeah.
Give support to the family if you need to.
I agree with you. And I tried to be, it's like as a reporter, you don't want to get sort of, people will try to hijack the narrative because, like I said, when we got there, it was obvious that a lot of people didn't like Sheriff Nanos before we got there. He won by 400 votes. So I was trying to sort of decipher, okay, or some people, did they just hate him anyway? And no matter what, they're going to say he's terrible, So
I don't hate him. I've got no hate.
I think that he has good intentions with this case. I think he wants to solve it, obviously. And I just think, there was definitely, like you said, the PR part of it. And then it seems like he clearly did have an issue with the FBI, so I don't think they got off to a good start.
No. And that goes back to, I think that his election in 2016, and there's all kinds of stuff online about that.
Yeah.
But that's a story for another day. Even if you do have a problem with the FBI, if they're there to help and they're well equipped and they're going to do a
Or actually, I'm going to look up a mechanic's bite light too.
So you just gotta, for the good of the case, you just gotta forget about it. I mean, there's all kinds of instances where the FBI's, come to blows with some entity or another, but then we have to work together on a big event, and we just do it. You do it because it had nothing to do with me. It's got nothing to do with you. Let's just get the job done and forget all that bullshit. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, as a reporter, if you don't get the scoop, if you miss the story, nothing else really matters. I mean, everybody's going to think you did a lousy job. Even if there's all these circumstances behind the scenes, it kind of feels the same with law enforcement. If they don't solve the case, it's like everybody's just going to think the sheriff did it is terrible,
Well, there were times when we were working a case that people thought we weren't in a position to solve it. And we were all smiling because we knew we were going to solve it. You know,
Yeah.
we had a couple of good. So that's why I'm optimistic. And I think they're going to solve the case. But unfortunately, everything's telling me it's too late for Nancy. And I'm not even at all convinced that we'll ever find her, to be honest. And I hate to say that.
Yeah, for bad stuff. You know, when you're out there, you're like, oh my gosh.
The FBI is back in Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood, questioning neighbors. They are questioning specifically about January 11 between the hours of 9 p.m. and 12 a.m. Why? We can confirm the prevailing theory is the porch guy was on Nancy's front porch Jan 11. Jan 11 is taking center stage. Also, we learned tonight scrutiny on neighbors that had a rental home and quickly vacated as soon as Nancy Guthrie goes missing. And tonight, we are learning that Nancy Guthrie herself stated she had been hacked just before her disappearance. Coincidence? There is no coincidence in criminal law. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us. Dave.
I find that very interesting that Nancy Guthrie, she just said, was hacked. That is very strange. Does anybody have a take on that?
At Crime Stories investigative reporter, what can you tell me about the FBI back in Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood going door to door? What do they want?
They want any kind of video that they can possibly find from Ring cameras, Nest cameras, any kind of surveillance video. And they want to talk to everybody about January 11th. You know, we've had the two videos, or the two photos rather. We have one where porch guy who has the gun in the backpack. And then we had the other photo, there we go, where he's not wearing a backpack and there is no gun. Well, now we know the no gun photo, no backpack photo. That's why the FBI is back in the neighborhood and they're talking to everyone in there about January 11th, specifically 9 p.m. to 12 midnight.
Straight out to our panel of experts, to Joseph Scott Morgan, professor of forensics, Jacksonville State University, author of Blood Beneath My Feet on Amazon, and star of a hit podcast, Body Bags with Joe Scott Morgan. Weigh in.
Well, you know, the fact that we have timestamps now, Nancy, is significant because you can go back. I don't know how far back they've gone with the videography that they have in hand. And what I'm talking about are all the peripheral areas. Did they have anything that goes back to that date in January where they can see a potential suspect moving around in that environment? And also, let me throw this out there to you. The backpack that he's wearing, and we're back on this again relative to the Ozark backpack, I think that it's critical here to try to understand, did he acquire this after that date in preparation of everything that he's been doing? It's also been stated that that holster that he is wearing is also a purchase from Walmart, which is where Ozark is also sold as well. Now, granted, he could have bought this online. He could have gone to a thrift store and picked it up. But it just seems like a coincidence at this point in time, not a coincidence, rather, that he acquires all this stuff and he changes his appearance. I stated some time ago that I felt as though that whoever did this had been casing her home. All right, that they had familiarity with this environment, that they were trying to understand it, trying to get a feel for the environment before they take her in whatever form that they took her, whether it was walking out the door with her, luring her out, or whatever potentially happened in this particular event. And I think that goes to this narrative, Nancy.
Also joining us in addition to Dave Mack and Jeff Scott Morgan, Brian Fitzgibbons is with us, Director of Operations, USPA Nationwide Security, leading a team of investigators finding and extracting missing people from around the world. Former Marine, Iraqi war vet. Brian, this is big. This is big because now we have evidence directly linking January 11 to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. We have January 24 linked to her disappearance. And we have the 31st bordering into the 1st. All three of those on weekend nights. That is extremely.
Has anybody else heard about this hacking theory that Nancy Grace is talking about, how Nancy Guthrie was hacked like a day before? Has anybody heard that?
Probative. When I would work up cases to present to juries, I would always look to see what night of the week incidents were occurring, specifically in, let's just say, a serial murder case, a serial case, stalking cases, because that gives me a bead on who is my perp. He's always doing this on weekend nights. Why? But that said, the fact that we now have somewhat of a timestamp is significant. Why?
Absolutely. It adds a tremendous amount of color behind the profile.
So what's weird about this is when I did US Bank, when I was using Google Trends, someone was typing in US Bank, and I'll have to get the dates, but it was in January and February, Nancy Guthrie, US Bank. So were they trying to hack a bank account first, and then they couldn't get in, and then were they going after Bitcoin? That is really interesting. But I can show after this the photos of somebody, or I'm sorry, Google Trends, somebody was typing in Nancy Guthrie, US Bank. So that explains why someone was typing that in so many times. Were they trying to hack her bank account? That's just weird that out of all banks, because I searched all banks, it was Nancy Guthrie, US Bank.
That we're building of this suspect. Why was it just on the weekends? Is this somebody who traveled a distance, who was maybe working somewhere Monday through Friday, elsewhere during the week, traveling to the Tucson area on the weekend to conduct this reconnaissance? And the second thing I'd like to add is it also corroborates other information that has been revealed from the investigation. Nancy's neighbor reported to numerous media outlets that in mid-January, she wasn't sure of a specific date, that she saw someone, a strange person, walking around the neighborhood. And this wasn't a typical walker that they would see, or somebody in exercise clothing, that somebody was walking up and down the neighborhood. Now, this has been widely reported, and now with this date and timestamp on the perp or the suspect on Nancy's porch, it certainly provides some more validation to that tip.
Here, I have to find this.
The masked suspect seen on Nancy's front porch 3 weeks before her abduction. It's been narrowed down. Definitely Jan 11. Definitely Jan 11. To Todd Shipley joining us, digital cybercrime expert, former Detective Sergeant Reno, 25 years in law enforcement, author of Surviving a Cyber Attack, Securing Social Media, Protecting Your Home. He is at darkintel.info. I know on the outside looking in to civilians, this is not a big deal. It is a big deal. Now we're looking for sure at January 11, January 24, and January 31, Feb 1. This narrows down the identity of the suspect. Now people can think back. Where was X on these dates? Why was he out late that night? That's just a small example. But digitally speaking, forensically speaking, how will this help us?
Well, one of the things that has happened now is that they've taken that Nest camera and gone to the next level of investigation. The general, connecting to it and getting data off is average forensic work that is done every day. What happened in this case, I'm pretty sure, is that they actually did what we call a chip off. They
Yep, I
took the
heard
device
about it.
apart, went to the motherboard,
I heard about them coming out of Grand Junction, but I'm going to find you all the photos of the U.S. Bank search that I had. Give me a second.
took the actual memory chips off and read them directly to get this extra data that was there that they couldn't get otherwise because it was deleted or otherwise removed from the average ability to get to it. So they did a very sophisticated process, got the data off there, and now have new evidence that we didn't have. And this took them a while to do. It wasn't something that was easily done because it's partly destructive when it takes this kind of technique to get the data off. And so they were able to get that information and produce new photos that show exactly when this guy was there at a previous date.
Back to Dave Mack, the FBI in Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood in the last 24 hours asking about neighbors who moved out before Nancy vanished. They're also keenly interested in a home that is under construction, and they want the names of all the crew members who worked on the house. Bam! What about it, Dave Mack?
Nancy, dead on accurate. Let's take them one at a time here. The FBI was back in the neighborhood and looking at these homes under construction and wanting to get all of the employees' names, numbers, contact info, so they can start running down timelines on every employee that was working on these homes under construction. Now, we've talked about this neighborhood before. It is a very upscale neighborhood, and there was one home particularly in this neighborhood that was for rent. They don't have a lot of rentals here. In this one rental home, the neighbors moved out immediately after Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. Now,
Let me see in the
read into
file.
that what you will, but they were there until the kidnapping and then gone. So we've got the rental home and we've got construction work.
Okay,
Yeah,
before
sure,
we
I have-
start a vigilante hunt,
I can show you. I took screenshots of all the Google Trend searches. I have all of them written down. A lot of them coincide with the ransom dates. So when people were stepping up their game with Bitcoin, they kept searching like, hey, the Savannah Bitcoin, what type of Bitcoin, like account does she have? But the US Bank ones I have to find. So just bear with me because that totally means she was getting hacked.
for the people that moved out. You remember how everyone has been attacking Mrs. Guthrie's son-in-law and one of his bandmates in some band he plays or played
Yep,
in.
the sailor
I
in
mean, the
1990s.
bandmate's been having to hide in the home, and he has children, by the way. He and his wife have children, I learned. But that said, before we start pitchforks and torches outside the homes of the people that moved out,
Some guy seems to be the lead.
I want to point out that the idea of crew members on construction sites have been notoriously singled out in the past, and it's often been correct. It's going to be hard to put those crew members' names back together again. But that said, I find that really interesting. The FBI back in the neighborhood.
It was crazy. I Google trended like God, I want to say like 3 weeks ago on an episode, and it kept popping up US Bank in January. I can try it again unless they scrubbed Google Trends. Again, it's nothing earth shattering by me, but I do want to find it, and I wrote it down. So I'm looking right now as we play this, but then I think I also took screenshots, so I'll check.
Trying to determine who worked on a construction crew. Do I have that correct, Dave Mack?
Yes, you have it exactly correct. They want to know who was there and when they were there. You know, you've got a lot of day workers that do construction work, and depending on the work being done on any given day, Nancy, it could be regular crew that do the work on a regular basis, or it could be people we picked up at, on the way in to do 1 day or 2 days of labor. They're trying to track everyone down. So it's going to be a Herculean effort.
Yeah.
One I thought they would have gone through before now.
Well, they may be just learning about the construction crew, but that said, Joe Scott Morgan, the case Jennifer Kesse, you and I have worked on it for years. Focus now on the construction crews working along her set of condos, and behind them, at the time Jennifer goes missing. They never have tracked them down because, as Dave Mack just reported, a lot of them were day workers that you pick up at the grocery store, standing out in the parking lot that need work for the day. It's really hard to find them, some of them being illegals, just all sorts of problems tracking down a construction crew.
Yeah, it is. But I got to, you know where I'm going to start? I'm going to start with all of these cameras that are on homes around there, and any of those cameras that are pointed toward that construction site. And guess what I'm going to start doing? I'm going to start going frame by frame of every bit of data that I can during the daylight hours of that construction site. We're going to pull those license plates off of all of those trucks, because construction sites, what do you think about? You think about big pickup trucks, you think about delivery trucks, all these sorts of things. And that's where the investigation should start relative to this. You find this.
This is great that they're showing this, so I don't want to interrupt this, but real quick, I just want to show you 1 second here. I don't want to, real quick, we're going to be playing this, but I just found it. Again, I took a quick screenshot of it so you see it really quick. I got 10,000 folders here. Okay, so here's the first piece of proof, just so you can see, because obviously on Google Trends, it's hard to see. So if you look at the upper right corner, or upper left corner, it says Nancy Guthrie U.S. Bank. Okay, and then I'm going to put up the image next to it. I'm going to do the image directly next to it, but I just wanted to show you because you can't do a screenshot of or at least I can't, of the full screen. So that's what I just searched. And again, I did this like 3 weeks ago. And now you have, right here is the next one. You have, and we'll go back to Nancy Grace here. You have January 8th. You have 81 searches for Nancy Guthrie U.S. Bank. So I find that pretty compelling. Okay, I'll go back to the show. Let's add her back to the stage.
The site foreman, you go back, you press him. Do you have anybody here that works in this area? I don't care if they are a day laborer, somebody that's here consistently, or did one of these consistent people bring in a cousin, said, hey man, can you slip my cousin a few bucks? He'll carry a bucket of nails for us, or plaster or something like that. You have to press on this bit of information. This is gold, Nancy, relative to that site. And also something I would be very curious about, points of observation. Going back to that construction site, what could you see from that construction site, for instance, looking back toward Miss Guthrie's home? Is it even visible from that perspective? With construction workers, they climb all over these structures, the skeleton of these structures. They have a POV that nobody else has. They can look down into areas. They see a little old lady living in a house. Perhaps they frame her out as an easy target. So these are the things. I think this is an evidence-rich source here. I think they need to press on it, and hopefully they're doing that right now.
Here's another tidbit of information. By the way, that video you saw from a neighbor's door, it's not a door cam, it was a yard cam. That's from our friends at Fox News. We know, Joe Scott, that whoever the construction crew is that they're interested in would have to have been there on Jan 11.
Men's, I just want to respond to Men's Easy Menu, February 4th. February 4th, and then the February 7th was the deadline. Then the other deadline was February 9th for the ransom notes.
Probably before that, because if one of them is involved, and that's a big if, because whoever it is smart enough to outsmart local sheriffs and now take the feds on a run down a wild goose chase, they'd have to be there before Jan 11, the first day of interest, because they didn't just see her home that day and come up with a plan, right? They saw the home, they thought about it, and then went in the neighborhood. So it's somebody that was there Jan 11 at least. Now, did they work on the crew that whole time? No, they could have come back to the neighborhood. But that said, that's the origin point, Jan 11. Agree, disagree?
Yeah, I agree. And also this idea of casing that I mentioned earlier, they kind of got the bait and the blood in the water at this point in time. If that's from an observable position where you're looking back at her home, then that puts blood in the water relative to one individual, perhaps showing back up to say, you know what, let me take a closer look here. And you go back to that date, that Jan 11 date, and that's the moment in time where they step in. And who knows, they may have approached from a different perspective and looked at this residence from that perspective, and they're not caught on the camp. They could be kind of circulating around this environment. You never know relative to the perspective that they have. There's something that drew this individual's eye. I still think that people are aware, because out of all the residences in this neighborhood, they focus on her home, Miss Guthrie's home, out of everybody else's. They targeted her, Nancy.
Also, we are learning investigator seeking video, as I mentioned, 9 p.m. to midnight, Jan 11, and are also interested in a, quote, suspicious vehicle spotted on Via Entrada. That's a street near Nancy Guthrie's home around 10 a.m., Jan 31. Interesting. What can you tell me about that, Dave Mack? A suspicious vehicle on a street Via Entrada, 10 a.m., Jan 31.
Right. And the FBI is looking for every possible surveillance camera, Ring doorbell camera that they can find pointing towards the road to get a shot of this suspicious vehicle. And they're asking for a block of time from m to 11:30 a.m. on January 31st, the morning before the kidnapping that took place later that night. So we're talking about the morning of, so this suspicious vehicle on a road nearby. Now, suspicious, not exactly sure what that means, but it stuck out, Nancy, and it stuck out during the daytime. That says a lot.
Again, let me stress that no one on that construction crew, no neighbor that moved out has been named as a suspect or a person of interest. These are lines of inquiry by the FBI, and it gives us an idea as to where they're headed in the investigation. Again, the last thing you want, would you agree, Fitzgibbons, is to rush down the wrong avenue and name or suspect a POI or a suspect prematurely. That's the first thing you will hear on cross-examination if there is ever a trial. Isn't it true you named Brian Fitzgibbons as your first person of interest, and now you want the jury to convict my guy? You don't want to hear that. So no lynch mobs. Agree?
Absolutely. And this case has drawn so much public attention that, law enforcement needs to keep any persons of interest or suspects very close to the chest at this point. Not only to keep the lynch mob, so to speak, from forming, but from a very functional standpoint. They don't want the suspect or this individual to have really any information about what they do or don't know. So totally agree there.
Dave Mack, Nancy Guthrie stated she had been hacked on social media. And this occurred before her disappearance in the middle of the night. Was it Facebook that she had said was hacked?
She used Facebook a lot, Nancy, and she was hacked on Facebook more than once. But the time that was really worrisome was the one where it was in the middle of the night. But yeah, she was on Facebook all the time, posting pictures of the kids, her and grandkids. She was, and posting her baking photos and things like that. She was an active Facebook user, and she reached out for help, to find out, what do I do? I've been hacked. I need to know what to do to fix this problem. It was big enough that it really did get her attention and worried her.
Todd Shipley, can a hacker, a social media hacker, for instance, on Facebook Messenger, can they be traced?
Well, technically, yes. The question is whether people spend the time to collect the information about what happened. People complain about being hacked all the time. And it happens because there's simple phishing where they get an email with a link to an address that has malware on it. It's done simply and easily done on your phones or your computers. So there is evidence. It's just whether or not it's ever collected. Now, in this case, did the FBI collect this? Let's hope so. Because if she did get hacked, it's just another line of inquiry that they need to go down and figure out who was behind it.
Mrs. Guthrie, stated she had been hacked on social media before her disappearance. Now, a social media post has re-emerged where she disclosed she had been hacked for a second time on Facebook Messenger. The post, this was shared from her personal account, stated that it was the second time she had been hacked and asking people, how do I fix it? Is it connected? We don't know, but we do know it's just another piece of the puzzle.
To whoever has her or knows where she is, that it's never too late. And you're not lost or alone. And it is never too late to do the right thing. And we are here. And we believe.
Hey, what's up, Crystal? Just
We
seeing
believe in the essential goodness
what's going on, Crystal.
of every human being. And it's never too late.
So many people are struggling to keep up with credit card payments every single month. American Financing can help you take advantage of the home equity you have built up. And then you can say
embarrassed and humiliated with what Nanos has done. Plus, there also was an interview with him under oath in December with Nanos, where he said he had never been suspended in the line of duty, and that turned out to be not true. So Nanos is really under the gun here, and a recall vote is being sought. They have 90 days to get all the signatures necessary to actually move forward with a recall vote, and it has begun in earnest.
Now, question, in order for a recall vote, I believe they need 100,000 signatures to make that happen. Here's my concern to Brian Fitzgibbons joining us, Director of Operations, USPA Nationwide Security, leading a team of investigators around the world to find missing people, including extractions from Mexico. He is a former Marine and an Iraqi war vet. Recall. Maybe a good idea, maybe not, but not right now in the middle of this investigation. Nanos' attention is already diverted between this investigation, claims of misconduct and tampering. Of course, he's got his reality show to handle, but that said, he does not need another diversion of attention.
Yeah, and it's important to remember here that Sheriff Nanos is an elected official, and I know that that's not 100% uniform across the country, where law enforcement officials are indeed elected, but there in Pima County, he is. And what this seems to be is political opportunism bringing about this recall. And it's certainly going to add quite a bit to the plate of Sheriff Nanos, where he's going to be worried about protecting his politically elected position now.
Dave Mack, do you recall the discovery of a backpack near Nancy Guthrie's home? And after a lot of media attention, it was determined the backpack was not connected to Nancy Guthrie's kidnap. In fact, there were items in the backpack that belonged to a child, a juvenile, and the weathering of the backpack suggests that it had been out in the elements for a really long time, predating Nancy's kidnapping. Do you recall that?
I do. It was found in an area that is often used by homeless people looking for a place to get out of the elements. And there were other items found in there that were indicative of having been out in the elements for a long time. And so while it was a backpack, and while it was near the home of Nancy Guthrie, it really was not part of the case.
Over a month after 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie vanishes from her Tucson home, the investigation has taken a very disturbing turn. Allegations of misconduct and tampering with evidence, information leaks, coordination failures between various agencies. Now, taking center stage when all eyes, all attention should be on finding Nancy Guthrie. More scrutiny around the investigation and how the evidence has been handled. Now, mounting questions about the handling of the evidence.
Okay, just to go through it really quick, just to recap, they're looking for construction workers, right? A person in the chat mentioned maybe a mechanic's light. They use a bite light. There's the 3 people that moved out of Nancy's neighbor, moved out suddenly after the abduction. A gem person, excuse me, they are saying Nancy was hacked. She was being hacked. I also have a close friend, a buddy who's friends with somebody that's a local law enforcement down there, says it's revenge, not ransom. But then what's conflicting about that report that I gave about 20 minutes ago was the fact that on Nancy Grace, they're talking about Nancy Guthrie being hacked. And then when you look at Google Trends, it makes sense to me that they were searching US Bank before they were doing Google Trends on the Bitcoin, before those ransom letters came out. So was someone trying to hack? So it's kind of going back and forth here, but wanted to give an update of kind of where we're at. Construction workers looking for like electricians, who was around that job site that day, and then onto the show.
As the investigation enters a, quote, more complicated phase. Now, I want to go back to not just the backpack, but a recent discovery found near Nancy Guthrie's home in a wash. What that means is where the water, torrential water, has washed out the soil. Looks kind of like a dry creek bed. That's what a wash is. Now, I want to show you what Adrian F. posted on X. I believe we're seeing tan capri shoes, a bedspread, and a knee brace. Am I missing anything, Dave Mack?
What you're looking at here, Nancy, is you're looking in an arroyo that has this pants, the tan pants that are seen in that arroyo, the tan shoes that you mentioned before, and a knee brace,
Florida,
and all of this near Nancy Guthrie's home. It is shockingly close to the home, and you would think that this would be a big deal, finding pants, shoes, and a knee brace.
Thoughts on tan pants, shoes, knee brace, and bedspread, whether they are connected or not. Don't you think? Straight out to Todd Shipley joining us. Todd, digital cybercrime expert, former Detective Sergeant, Reno, Nevada PD, 25 years in law enforcement at darkintel.info. Shouldn't that have at least been gathered and processed to determine if it's real, if it's connected in any way?
Well, certainly you would think that in this kind of case, they would have been gathering everything they can find, even if they don't necessarily think it's relative at the time. Because once somebody calls something in like that, where are they going to go? They don't have any information now. So yes, they should be collecting everything they can find and trying to identify whether it's related or not.
According to Adrian F. posting on social, here are the items found today exploring with Jim and were called in. JLR investigates, call the items into authorities. Now, I want to address that to Joseph Scott Morgan joining us, professor of forensics, Jacksonville State University. He is the author of Blood Beneath My Feet on Amazon, and he is the star of a hit podcast, Body Bags with Joseph Scott Morgan. More important for our purposes tonight, he is a death investigator with over 10,000 death investigations under his belt, deaths of all sorts. Of course, there are only a few alternatives: natural causes, accident, suicide, unexplained, and homicide. That's what he's done his whole life. Now, when we get information, it doesn't have to come from law enforcement. The FBI doesn't have to be walking along the side of the road in a hazmat outfit and find this. Citizens can find information and call it in. Then when you put the citizen up on the stand, Joe Scott Morgan, that citizen can be cross-examined until the cows come home. until the defense attorney is blue in the face. But that doesn't mean the evidence isn't real just because law enforcement didn't find it.
You're absolutely right. It doesn't invalidate what a citizen might find. As a matter of fact, I've been involved in a number of cases where you have pedestrians that are just kind of walking along the way, where bits of what turned out to be evidence were recovered. They found weapons, shell casings. Hell, Nancy, I've had cases where a person's dog has drug human remains up in the yard. So yeah, the cops don't have to be directly involved in it to validate the evidence. So anything that they're out there, and our colleague mentioned this just a moment ago, right now, they don't really have bupkis. And so anything that's out there that is within the spectrum of the vicinity of her home has evidentiary value. It's a matter of evaluating it to try to see what it's worth at this point in time. But in order to do that, it has to be documented, it has to be preserved, it has to be collected, and then it has to be brought in for processing. If you don't do these things, then it ain't worth the gunpowder to blow it to hell. You just got photos by some citizen out there that's saying, well, yeah, we found this, but it was never moved on. So everything in this case, Nancy, is more than critical.
Joe Scott Morgan, you've been in court so many times that as an expert witness, regardless of who finds the evidence, and maybe that person can be attacked on cross-exam, did the evidence exist? Is the evidence real? Every witness you put on the stand is not going to be a nun, a priest, or a virgin. Let's just go with that, okay? But the reason I care about this blanket is because there is a theory that Nancy Guthrie was wrapped in a blanket.
Yeah, that's very true on that. And they had a cardiologist on talking about waking up in the middle of the night. Even at middle age to older age, even without a pacemaker, you could have a heart problem if your arteries are clogged 75% or more, like your widowmaker. You could have a heart attack. And then you take at the age of 84 with a pacemaker. Again, we want her to be found alive. But I'm just saying you made a really good point about having a heart attack. I'd probably even pass out.
Or wrapped up in something there on the front porch and transported, wrapped up. Is it true? Don't know. But that's why I care about that blanket. If it's even real, what does the blood tell you? Is that theory possible based on the blood on her front porch?
We could go down two roads with this, Nancy. First off, I've had cases where people are bleeding, okay? And say, for instance, a perpetrator is trying to do what is called stem the bleeding. And that can either be an individual that is injured and still alive, or it can be an individual that is deceased. And suddenly the perpetrator looks down and says, oh my God, I've got blood. I need to stem. I need to stop the flow or the presentation of blood. That could happen. Okay. Yeah. I've seen that happen. And then all of a sudden, you know, when you think about this collection that has been
what's scary too is what is with all these home invasions? I mean, even like, you know, I'm going back to the Idaho 4, there's home invasions are on the rise in the US. That's very scary. Very, very, it's scary when you're coming into somebody's house. That's where they're meant to eat, enjoy their family, enjoy their work week, you know, weekends with their family. It's just horrible. Sorry. I'll let the guy talk now.
Identified as Mrs. Guthrie's blood. Why does it just suddenly end? And I think that that's a big question, and it's a valid question. Or if you've got a surface that is so inundated with blood, that would mean a profuse amount of blood in order to have it seep through that medium and have it transfer onto the ground. I think this happened prior to being wrapped.
So bottom line, is it possible? That's a yes, no, Joe Scott.
Yeah, it's possible she could have been wrapped up in a blanket.
Scary to know that. That's freaky.
Hi, guys. Nancy Grace here. Please join us on Crime Stories and stream it first on Fox 1. When breaking crime news develops, we investigate it and bring it to you. Bombshell updates, answers to unanswered questions from cases making the headlines and cases you may never have heard of until having to deal with attacks Why? Why attack a crime victim? Joining me, renowned psychoanalyst out of the LA jurisdiction, Dr. Bethany Marshall. She is the author of Deal Breakers. You can see her now on Peacock, and you can find her at drbethanymarshall.com. Also with us, Guru, PR Guru to the stars,
Whoa,
Rob
nice hair.
Shooter. He's the author of a hit new book that is climbing the charts on Amazon. It started with a whisper. He's also at robshooter.substack.com. Some of his clients, the infamous Sean Puffy, aka Diddy, aka Love Combs, Britney Spears, I could go on, but I don't understand why this is happening. Straight out to Dr. Bethany Marshall, the most recent attack on our friend Savannah Guthrie, crime victim, is because she is considering going back to work.
Nancy, I would question all of these haters, all of these criticizers. Do they spend their entire lives with their parents? No. They have work. They pay bills. They take care of their children. They have lives. And you know why they have lives? Because their parents raised them to have lives, Nancy. I think everybody who's criticizing Savannah has what we call pathological envy. Pathological envy is the sense that if you have something good, it means I will never get it for myself. And we know Savannah has a lot of wonderful things about her life. She has her sibling group that seems.
Deanna, you are spot on. It looks like my buddy John, JH, not JLR Investigates. My buddy John, who lives by me, looks identical to this guy that they're going to show. I almost spit my coffee out laughing.
So supportive.
You can find John on my show too. If you go to the shorts, he does some investigating with the John Wayne Gacy, looking into Michael Rossi, who was one of the accomplices that helped Gacy. We can go down that another time. But
star on TV. She had and has a wonderful relationship with her mother. She has a supportive spouse, 2 beautiful children, and I think that the haters are so envious. This has put a spotlight on Savannah's life. And when the spotlight went on her life, everybody who is envious just stepped forward.
Guys, you're seeing video of Savannah with her sister Annie and Annie's husband, who has come under attack as well. I mean, just think about it. Rob Shooter joining me. Rob, we've all faced various ups and downs in life. That video from our friends at Fox News, by the way. Thank you, Fox. When, as you know, my fiance was murdered, I dropped out of school. My plan was to be a Shakespearean literature teacher at the university level. That dream was dashed. That said, it took me a long time to get it together to go back to school, which I did. But Savannah, on top of facing the kidnap of her mother, her disappearance, her horrible health issues, Mrs. Guthrie's, the specter that her mom may be dead, that she has not survived this ordeal, that's looming heavily. But unlike me, I had no responsibility like Savannah, because Savannah has children. And that is an overarching responsibility. So it's not just returning to her position at the Today Show, it's returning to her 2 minor children. I mean, that is her priority. In my mind, that is my priority, and I guess I'm projecting. But what do you advise? You know, the other day, it was Katherine Heigl. Somebody was hating on her for going to a charity event. And she actually engaged with the haters. And I get it. You want to say something back, and you may be right, but is it worth it? I mean, are they worth it? I say no. But what do you do in a situation like this? She's getting hate from every corner, from going back to work to her recent reunion with her Today Show co-hosts and friends. I think that just poured gas on the fire of the haters. some people claiming that she's part of the plot to kidnap her own mother, that she's trying to cover up for the brother-in-law. It's crazy talk. So you're the PR guru. What should she do?
Yeah, professionally, she should tune it out and focus on what really matters, which is her health, her family health, her children. Being a mom is her priority. You have it absolutely right, Nancy. That's not a projection. I've met Savannah many, many times. We have mutual friends together. This is what she wants to do. She wants to be with her kids, and her kids have potentially lost their grandmother too. So she's being a mom. That's her first priority. She will go back to work. She's indicated that she will.
See, Tasha, doesn't it look exactly like him? That's like spot on. Great job, Deanna. Okay, sorry.
Return to the Today Show. We don't have a date. It's completely mind-blowing to me that people have been this cruel. And I think people are going through is there's no roadmap to this. We unfortunately all know what it's like to have trauma in our lives. However, to have a parent go missing with very few answers, there is no prototype. There is no standard behavior. There's no roadmap to follow. So Savannah here is a pioneer. What should she do? And I think she should just follow her heart. She's got a deep, deep faith. And so she's really leaning into that. And she's been spending a lot of time here in New York with her friends. So I think she's doing everything she should do, everything she needs to do. And let's hope that she can tune this hate out. We should point out, Nancy, though, this hate is a minority. Most of the response has been overwhelming love.
Okay, Rob Shooter, maybe I've got information incorrect here, but aren't you the author of a brand new book that's climbing the charts at Amazon? It started with a whisper. Isn't that you?
It is me, Nancy. That is my book.
Okay, and aren't you the star of robshooter.substack.com and host of Naughty But Nice podcast? Isn't that true?
Star of both, yes.
Okay, and isn't it true that you are the so-called publicist to the stars? Isn't that you, Rob Shooter?
I've been called that, Nancy. Yes, I am.
Okay, and your advice is follow your heart. That's your advice. People pay money for that?
It's really good advice because everybody wants to speak. When I got into crisis management PR, one of the hardest things to teach people was to let it go. You do not have to respond to every single critic out there. They won't be remembered in the moment. Right now, we're talking about them, but 2-3 years from now, we'll be talking about how Savannah handled this with grace and dignity and where her life is then. So I know it does sound flippant. I know it sounds like the obvious, but try and do it yourself. If somebody comes at you at Twitter, try not responding. It's a real skill, and I think it's a skill that Savannah has mastered.
I usually just say, thanks for watching. Because what else can you say? So your advice is follow your heart. Also, don't engage in warfare, with battle, with the haters, because, nobody's paying me thousands of dollars for this advice like they pay you, Rob Shooter. But I would say engaging with them is like mud wrestling with a pig. You get dirty and the pig likes it. So don't do it. Yeah. Another thing too, Doctor, and you can use that if you want to, and you can get good money for that, Rob Shooter. Bethany Marshall, on top of everything else that she's dealing with, I think she's trying to compartmentalize, which is a ploy of mine. Maybe I'm projecting that when it's just too much to think about, do something else. Put that over there and focus on this. And by achieving something, you slowly, in the back of your mind, process everything that's happened. She was attacked. She's being attacked for even mentioning going back to work. Then, how did this happen, Dr. Bethany? That when the haters saw a video of her having a little mini reunion, she went back to thank everyone at the Today Show set for their support. That seemed to throw gas on the fire. Why did that inflame so many people, those photos of her?
Because, Nancy, they can see that she's loved, and that triggers the envy as well. If she has something good, it means that my life is miserable. But, Nancy, the number one thing I tell trauma victims, and I work with trauma patients, is to reestablish their regular routine. I get very basic with them, Nancy. First of all, validate their feelings. Of course, this is horrible, tragic, terrifying. She must be preoccupied with her mother. So validate the feelings. Then I tell them to drink water. It's that basic, Nancy, to practice what we call sleep hygiene, to go to bed at the same time and get up at the same time every morning. Open all the windows and open the curtains in the morning so that she can get sunshine. And then go back to your regular routine where there's structure and where there is social support. These people have been her friends and her professional family for many, many, many years. She probably does not have that kind of support in Arizona where her mom is. So she needs to go back to the people who love her and who can listen to her. Trauma patients also have to talk about what happened to them as they are ready. Don't ask them too many questions because it will trigger anxiety and trauma and stress, but they have to know that there's a listening ear there somewhere so they can talk about their experience.
Look how pretty
That's what she has with her husband and with her friends in New York City and with the Today Show.
Joining us now, in addition to Dr. Bethany Marshall and Guru to the Stars, PR celebrity Rob Shooter, Dave Mack joining me, Crime Stories investigative reporter. There have been so many attacks on her. Remember the attacks regarding the ransom?
Well, Nancy, the attacks about not paying the ransom really go back to things that we are not privy to, information between law enforcement and the Guthrie family, because we don't know the veracity of these claims, these ransom demands. The family does. And the family, from what we look at on these videos, they're responding as they're being, I'm guessing, told to respond. This isn't something that they're doing in a vacuum. They actually have a lot of people bending their ear and explaining what to do. I mean, who goes through a kidnapping on a regular basis? So the experts are leaning on the family, explaining what to do and how to do it. And I'm guessing they're following that instruction.
Dave Mack, the haters online have even attacked Savannah Guthrie as it relates to her husband, claiming that somehow his job has triggered the kidnap of her 84-year-old mother in the middle of the desert. Listen to this, Dave Mack.
Her husband, his last name is Feldman. He worked for the Clintons the 8 years they were in office. Okay? He started a company called Grover Park. Basically, what they were scrubbers. They would scrub the internet of anything bad that they did not want the public to find out. They would scrape the whole internet. So when you did a search, you couldn't find out anything about it. How much you want to bet? Because the Clintons are going in front of Congress that they struck out to this guy because he was their cleaner.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I could listen to her all day long. Okay, and she's taken a lot of correct facts and woven them together with this theory. That is Proud Shrimp, her daughter, on TikTok. To Rob Shooter joining us. Rob, there have also been attacks on Savannah's looks. Describe.
Yeah, people have gone after her for not wearing enough makeup, not looking sad enough, not acting like she's riddled with grief. And there we see Savannah. She looks very different there than what we're used to seeing her on the Today Show. And I think people might find that a little jarring when they see somebody that normally comes into their living room 5 days a week looking different. People have had a lot of questions about that. There she is without a professional hair and makeup person. She does not have a hairdresser with her in Arizona. She can't win here, Nancy. Had she traveled to Arizona with a glam squad, had she made these videos when she was in full hair and makeup, then she would have criticism about doing that too. And so my heart breaks for Savannah here because there's always going to be people that are going to criticize her. There she is again with her sister and her brother. And she's not looking like she looks on the Today Show. And she shouldn't look like that either. This is raw Savannah. This is not the Savannah that we see on NBC News. This is real life Savannah. And I think we should all cut her a break. A lot of people out there are confused by this. I want to I want to give them the benefit of the doubt here, but it's cruel. It's really cruel. The only silver lining here, Nancy, and you know Savannah too,
John's back
is she's a
on.
really strong person, and she has a really strong
God, I can't believe
faith.
that looks like
And as
my good
upsetting as
friend
this
to a
is,
T.
she'll get through it.
Follow
She's
the
going to be
shorts
okay.
under Gacy.
To whoever has her or knows where she is, that it's never too late.
Oh, it's just terrible.
And you're not lost or alone. And it is never too late to do the right thing. And we are here. And we believe. And we believe in the essential goodness of every human being. And it's never too late.
American homeowners, the FBI has been warning about a type of real estate fraud called title theft. Your equity, your name. You're left night title history, urgent Nancy, or just use the link below and good luck. If you know or think you know anything about Mrs. Guthrie's disappearance, please call 1-800-225-5324 or 520-882-7463 if you wish to remain anonymous. There is a $1.2+ million reward for information leading to Nancy's whereabouts. Thank you to our guests, but especially thank you to you for being with us tonight and keeping the search for Nancy Guthrie alive. Nancy Grace signing off for tonight. I'll see you tomorrow night. And until
Okay, here, 1 second. We're just going to review some stuff. Here is the U.S. bank searches. I think I'm going to read some of the comments really quick. So just a second. Let me just read through the comments. Keep saying internal investigation. Hello all. Hey, aristocrat. I think only connection Savannah has her money. If someone wanted her money. Yeah, that could definitely be from the hacking. Add to stage. Nancy Guthrie searched U.S. Bank. Someone searched it 81 different times, was like tampering with her bank account and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of mystery behind that. Let's go real quick. And I know everyone's got to get going. I got to get going here on my morning. We will be on later at 6:30 and then again at 11 o'clock 6:30. And then I think it's 10 p.m. Ted After Dark, where we'll be doing question and answers if you're up that late from today's breaking news. So it was where did Criminal Network go? I think he disappeared actually. 1 second. Let me check one thing. If you guys got to get going, please. I'm just going to show a quick map of All Eyes on Nancy. See if it's been updated at all. The FBI has been kind of tweaking with this. Let's see if I can see if there's anything involving in this map right now. Anything new? Give me 1 second here. Remove that. Add that to stage. We want that. We're gonna go. Let's see. Let's see if they have anything new. Let's see. Let me catch up with the chat. Teddy, if I'm awake, I'll try that. It's 3 a.m. Oh my God. Okay, sorry. What was Nancy hacked? I thought it was Nancy's Facebook. She was hacked. They didn't say specifics. Did they say Facebook? I'll have to search that. 1 second. Let me just check the interactive map for a second. See if they're allowing us to view any of the. We originally were trying to get the camera routes, the live footage from that day, but the FBI now put back the 283 OSM cameras, so we might be able to extract it. I was having somebody work on these cameras where when you do a live snapshot, I can't click on it or I'd have to show you the other page, but when you do a live snapshot of this, it'll actually show you footage of vehicles driving, and I had a buddy of mine that was actually working on it through the Geico website on Arizona511.com, and I'll show you what it would look like once we have it. So we were working on it, and one day all the OSM cameras just disappeared. So we were going to be finalized. And here, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about really quick here. Let me just scroll down. So it's going to be able to show this. So I'm going to be able to click on traffic cameras, and it's going to actually be able to show this in live time. So then we can go back to February 1st and search all the different ways, whether we're looking for a white Kia or like what Gen X showed earlier, that Mustang BMW headlights. So we can locate every camera possible. So that's what we were working on. And we were like one day from getting all the data. And then the next day I logged on to this site, the FBI. Here, I'll show you. The FBI removed all of the OSM cameras. So if you, to make sense of what I'm saying, basically these traffic cameras were completely gone. So all the ones I'm showing here, these orange rectangular traffic cameras were all gone. So we could not pull that data. This is the area, again, that Annie Guthrie said to follow. So if you're in Tucson, Arizona, I know I repeat myself a lot. If you're on Tucson, Arizona, stay by the Shady Hills Country Club Golf Course, check 5830 North Jean Matas Drive. And anywhere along here, if you do live in Tucson, they're asking you to check cameras around this path. This is the path they're currently searching, Arthur Park Regional Park. It goes down. It travels through here. You notice there's a camera there. Wait a minute. Did they remove the cell phone? Wow, interesting. Now the cell phone tower data is gone. Is that interesting? So there used to be cell towers all through here, and I'm sure you guys have seen this map and me show this map. There would be these little blue rectangles, and they were spread all throughout this map. So the FBI must have just, okay, that's cool that he drove it. Yep, that's awesome. That's weird that the FBI removed the cell phone towers now from it. That's very strange. I'm just catching up with this. Thanks, said, I wonder if all the dates, including the hack dates, are weekends. That would make the perps 9 to 5ers. Oh, true. Let me, while we're looking at the map, let me just search real quick on that thing I just found. What day was that? January 8th. Let's just see what day was January 8th this year. And then I'll let everyone get going here this morning. Oh, that was interesting. It was on a Thursday. But yeah, that's pretty good. Why would they have working cameras and not have them working? Yeah, I don't know. I heard that Nancy's phone pinged 200 miles away yesterday. Men's easy. That's very funny you said that, because anytime they're looking at that, that's so weird that they removed all of the cell phone data here. Have you guys seen the map when I showed it before that has all the cell phones on it? I do have a screenshot of it that I can show you if not, so you don't think I'm crazy. Here. I'll show it anyways. They literally removed it. Yeah, like security-wise, like I think they're pulling it to stay ahead of the game or something, because now it's completely gone. So I just find that so weird that every day they're removing a different thing. So like those security cameras, that would have been a really interactive thing where we all could have. So I would have sent out the link, and then we all could go back and search for all the cameras and like the dates between January 31st to February 2nd to see if we can find any suspicious vehicles. And that was gone. And now that's back up, but there's a few other different cameras missing, but the cell phone tower cameras are missing, which is, it's matching up to what Men's Menu said. Because as I show you here on this older screenshot I took, here's an older footage. Now look at the blue cell phone towers. Those are all the cell phone towers in the Tucson area. And now those cell phone towers, can everybody see the blue cell phone, the rectangles on this map, or is it not showing on the screen? I'm not sure. And I'll explain where I'm going with this. So do you see see how I'm getting access to the blue cell phone? Right. They pulled the traffic cameras. So we had Arizona 511. which is where you can pull data from the past, but you have to integrate it with the maps. You need basically a software engineer. Well, I have a buddy that does that. He was able to scrub data back from February 1st by means I cannot say, but there is the original map. And you also notice in the upper left corner, there are the yellow traffic cameras. Those are gone now. So now let's go back to the interactive map. I mean, I know it's not earth-shattering information, but I find it just crazy that every day it kind of follows the path of the FBI. Now all of a sudden, and I forgot his screen name, Men's Easy Menus has said they found Nancy's phone pinging 200 miles away. Well, now all of a sudden the FBI's like removing the cell phone data. It coincides with what Men's Over Menus has said. And I find that very interesting and compelling, because all of a sudden now we're saying she's 200 miles away. So, this is the Wi-Fi jammer zone, which we showed. But anyways, that's just what I wanted to say. I hope everyone have a really, really good day. What is today? Are we on Thursday yet? Today, Thursday? Are we almost to Friday? I think it's Thursday, right? Thursday, perfect. Okay, I hope everyone has have a great Thursday. Make sure to check out other channels. So like there's the Gen X Heretic. She has a wonderful channel. John DePietro. I think it's John DePietro. He's still live out in front of Nancy Guthrie's house. So if you'd like to just look at live footage, I think it's like the DePietro show. He's another one that's live. There's Mark the Shark. There's 857 Tucson is still driving around. So check out 857 Tucson. There's Dad's Gone Live, has a really good breakdown. Oh, interesting. I thought her cell phone was left at her home. You're right. Great catch. Okay. You are right. Great catch. Okay, well, there goes my cell phone theory. Good catch. Okay, well, the cell phones are gone regardless of the map. I have no clue why, but because if she would have had her cell phone, they would have probably pinged her like within the first day, right, and got her. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, man. I just had brain fog there. I just when I seen the cell phone towers removed and I saw that comment, I was like, holy cow. But then, if she would have had her cell phone with her, that thing, they would have found exactly where she was. Okay. Yep. JLR Live is going on shortly too. So definitely check him out. Obviously he is the king of this case, him and Brian Enton. Big shout out to Nancy Grace. There's an Ashley Banfield, but Brian Enton, JLR, obviously. And everyone have a wonderful Thursday. Stay safe out there. And if you're jogging, exercising, if you're going to a mailbox, a joint mailbox, any walking patterns, mix it up. Don't jog the same routes, okay? Forest trails, preserves. It's summertime. There's weirdos that are hanging out in between the bushes. Just please stay safe out there. I cannot tell you how many true crime stories we've seen in the last year where there's, now we're really getting into home invasions, but I can't tell you about the trails, the parks, people studying you. You have to realize, and I know you guys realize, sorry, I didn't mean to say that, but what I'm saying is this is the state of surveillance. Everyone has a camera. Everyone, whether you're out on your driveway grabbing your groceries, neighbors are good people, but there are some neighbors that are strange. Just know people are watching from those cameras. When you're out, whether you're with your kids or you're unpacking groceries or you're cutting the grass, you're shoveling, just know that, you could be monitored, right? I'm outside my driveway. There could be someone just watching me to watch me. So just try to mix up your routine, where you park, where you go, parking lots at work, be very safe, like back toward, the back end of a parking lot. Also a tip, Amazon delivery drivers, if they're ringing the doorbell, Amazon's going to drop the package off on the porch. Don't open the door. Okay. People are impersonating Amazon, UPS workers. Just be very, very careful. Okay, good. You switch up your routine every day. Okay, perfect. Okay, everyone. I just want to make sure everyone's safe out there. Good morning, Alma. Okay, great. All right, everybody. Take care. I just wanted to let everyone know because we don't want to have a true crime case. There's a lot of strange people in this world, and there's 330 million of us all living here in the US. So you have a great morning. Happy Thursday, and we'll see you tonight. I'll be on, and then we have Ted After Dark for question and answer. So if you have a question that you want to get answered, there's a lot of smart viewers on. Viewers are the smartest people of the show. And I think that's really how we'll solve this case. All the educated people, you can tell in the comments of this, you know, I'm very blessed to just be able to sit back and read some of these comments and connect dots. So thank you. We'll be on later tonight. Have a great Thursday.